Part 3 of Ancient Greek Philosopher-Scientists. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by 7. Ancient Greek Philosopher-Scientists. A collection of their surviving words reported in ancient sources and translated by various translators. Part 3. Fragment and Testimonials on Anaximenes of Miletos, translated by Arthur Fairbanks in The First Philosophers of Greece. Fragment of Anaximenes of Miletos. Air is the nearest to an immaterial thing, for since we are generated in the flow of air, it is necessary that it should be infinite and abundant, because it is never exhausted. Testimonials on Anaximenes of Miletos. Aristotle. Meteorology. 2.1. Most of the earlier students of the heavenly bodies believed that the sun did not go underneath the earth, but rather round the earth, and this region entreated it disappeared from view and produced night, because the earth was so high toward the north. Simplicius. Comments on Aristotle's On the Heavens. 273b, 45. He regarded the first principle as unlimited, but not as undefined, for he called it air, thinking that air had a sufficient adaptability to change. Simplicius. Comments on Aristotle's Physics, 32r, 149, 32. Of this one writer alone, Theophrastus, in his account of the physicists, uses the words Greek of texture. The rest, of course, spoke of Greek. Simplicius. Comments on Aristotle's Physics, 2,57v. Some say that the universe always existed, not that it has always been the same, but rather it successively changes its character in certain periods of time, as, for instance, Anaximenes and Heracles and Diogenes. Aristotle, On the Heavens, 2.13, 294b, 13. Anaximenes, Anaxagoras, and Democritus say that the breadth of the earth is the reason why it remains where it is. Aristotle. Meteorology. 2.7, 365. Anaximenes says that the earth was wet, and when it dried it broke out, and that the earthquakes are due to the breaking and falling of hills. Accordingly, earthquakes occur in droughts, and in rainy seasons also. They occur in drought, as has been said, because the earth dries and breaks apart, and it also crumbles when it is wet through with waters. Aristotle. Metaphysics. 1.3, 984-5. Anaximenes regarded air as the first principle. Plutarch. On the Principle of Cold, 7.3. According to Anaximenes, the early philosopher, we should not neglect either cold or heat in being, but should regard them as common experiences of matter which are incident to its changes. He says that the compressed and the condensed state of matter is cold, while the rarefied and relaxed, a word he himself uses, state of it is heat. Whence he says it is not strange that men breathe hot and cold out of the mouth, for the breath is cooled as it is compressed and condensed by the lips, but when the mouth is relaxed, it comes out warm by reason of its rarefaction. Theophrastus. Physics. 6r, 24, 26. Anaximenes of Miletos, son of Erystratos, a companion of Anaximander, agrees with him that the essential nature of things is one and infinite. But he regards it not as indeterminate, but rather determinate, and calls it air. The air differs in rarity and in density as the nature of things is different. When very actuated, it becomes fire. When more condensed, wind, and then cold. And when still more condensed, water and earth and stone. And all other things are composed of these. And he regards no motion as eternal, and by this changes are produced. Hippolytus. Philosopher. 7. Anaximenes, he himself a Milesian, son of Eustratus, said that the infinite air is the first principle, from which arise the things that have come and are coming into existence, and the things that will be, and gods and divine beings, while other things are produced from these, and form of air as is follows. When it is of very even consistency, it is imperceptible to vision, but it becomes evident as the result of cold or heat or moisture, or when it is moved. It is always in motion, for things would not change as they do unless it were in motion. It has a different appearance when it is made more dense or thinner. When it is expanded into thinner state, it becomes fire, and again winds are condensed air. and air becomes cloud by compression, and water when it is compressed further, and earth, and finally stones as it is more condensed. So that generation is controlled by the opposites heat and cold, and the broad earth and the moon and all the rest of the stars, being fiery bodies, are supported on the air by their breath, and the stars are made of earth, since exaltations arise from this, and these being accentuated become fire, and of this fire when it is raised to the heavens the stars are constituted. There are also bodies of an earthly nature in the place occupied by the stars, and carried along with them in their motion. He says that the stars do not move under the earth as others have supposed, but around the earth, just as a cap is moved about the head. And the sun is hidden not by going underneath the sun, but because it is covered by some other higher parts of the earth, and because of its greater distance from us. The stars do not give forth heat because they are so far away. Winds are produced when the air that has been attenuated is set in motion, and when it comes together and is yet farther condensed. Clouds are produced, and so it changes into water. And hail is formed when the water descended from the clouds is frozen, and snow, when these being yet more filled with moisture become frozen, and lightning, when clouds are separated by violence of the winds. For when they are separated, the flash is bright and like fire. And a rainbow is produced when the sun's rays fall on compressed air, and earthquakes are produced when the earth is changed yet more by beating and cooling. Such are the opinions of Anaximenes, and he flourished about the first year of the 58th Olympiad. Plutarch, Stromatius, 3. Anaximenes says that the air is the first principle of all things, and that it is infinite in quantity, but is defined by its qualities. And all things are generated by a certain condensation or rarefaction of it. Motion also exists from eternity, and by compression of the air the earth was formed, and it is very broad. Accordingly he says that this rests on air, and the sun and moon and the rest of the stars were formed from earth. He declared that the sun is earth because of its swift motion, and it has the proper amount of heat. Cicero, on the nature of gods, 1.10. Afterwards, Anaximenes says that the air is God, and that it arose, and that it is boundless and infinite and always in motion, just as though air without any form could be God, when it is very necessary that God should be not only of some form, but of the most beautiful form, or as though everything which comes into being were not thereby subject to death. Aetius, Placita Philosophorum, 1.3. Anaximenes of Miletos, son of Eustratus, declared that the air is the first principle of things, for from this all things arise, and into this they are all resolved again. As our soul, which is air, he says, holds us together, so wind and air can encompass the whole world. He uses these words air and wind synonymously. He is mistaken in thinking that animals are composed of simple homogeneous air and wind, for it is impossible that one first principle should constitute the substance of things, pushed by condensed resisting air. But an active cause is also necessary, just as silver alone is not enough to become coin. But there is need of an active cause, i.e., a coin maker. So there is need of copper and wood and other substances. 2.1. Anaximenes et al. Infinite words exist in the infinite of every cycle. 2.4. 331. The world is perishable. 2.1. 339. The sky is the revolving vault, most distant from the earth. 2.14. 344. The skies are fixed like nail-heads in the crystalline, vault. 2.19. 347. The skies shine for none of these reasons, but solely by the light of the sun. 2.22. 352. The sun is broad, like a leaf. 2.23. 352. The stars revolve, being pushed by condensed resisting air. 3.10. 337. The form of the earth is like a table. 3.15. 379. The dryness of the air due to drought and its wetness due to rainstorms are the causes of earthquakes. 4.3. 387. Anaximenes et al. The soul is like air in its nature. End of part 3. Recorded by 7.